everyone, and welcome to another video. I'm Alyce and I'm here today with my 5-star predictions. So I've decided to do 15 predictions because I was doing a list and there were far too many. So we have 5 backlist books, we have 5 upcoming 2021 standalones, and we have 5 upcoming 2021 series continuations / enders. And hopefully, fingers crossed, all of these books will end up being 5 stars. Now, I'm hoping that making this video will mean that I feel like I have no choice but to read all 15 in 2021, and then I'll come back to this at like the end of the year and be like, wow, all of those were 5 stars. And I won't come back to this at the end of the year and be like, didn't read any of those. So, fingers crossed. But yeah, let's get on with it. So we'll start off with the backlist books, of which the first one is The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. This is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. We read the first 3 books last year, gave the first one 4.5 stars, and the second and the third both got 5 stars. So I'm hoping that the 4th book in this series will continue on with our good feelings about this world and these characters. This follows a guy called Randall Thor and his friends Matt and Perrin as they have to leave their village because one of them is the chosen one, but they don't know who. And they're being chased by an evil big bad, and there's like lots of other stuff going on. Obviously these are quite chunky books, so there is a lot going on in this world, but there's just something about these characters and this story that I find so charming, and it's just utterly enjoyable, and I fly through every single one of these, so hopefully it'll be a 5-star read. The next book I'd like to mention is Death Set Sail by Robin Stephens. This is the last book in the Murder Most Unladylike series. This came out last summer and I was intending on reading it last year, but then I got scared because it's the last one and I'm scared and I don't want anything bad to happen to Hazel or to Daisy or to any of the other characters, and I'm just nervous and I don't want to read it, but I do because I want to read it because I love these stories. So this is a middle grade murder mystery series following 2 girls who start their own detective society to investigate all of the murders that just keep happening around them. This is the last book, apart from there's going to be another short story collection released in the summer called Once Upon a Crime. So I need to get this read before that anyway, because I've already got that pre-ordered and I'm definitely reading that this year. But hopefully this will be a 5-star because the majority of the books in this series have been 5-star reads for me. The next book I'd like to mention is Obsidio by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I read Illuminae last month, 5 stars, thought it was absolutely astounding. Gemina is on our TBR for January, and so this way we have no choice but to read Obsidio this year as well. So Obsidio is the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae files. I'm assuming it's going to be much like the other ones because there's lots of radio transmissions and there's lots of like things going on throughout, so it's told in a very unconventional way and that makes it very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Jay and Amy do with the last book in this series because I've heard it's like very, very murdery and there's lots of death and I'm scared but excited. Sean says it's not a book, it's an art piece that just happens to have a good story, and I completely agree with him. It's the best way of summarising Illuminae. Like it's spot on. The next book that I'm hoping I'll give 5 stars to is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. This was released at the end of 2020 and I was planning on reading it right away, and then I got scared because when don't I get scared? Anything that's a hyped release, anything that I anticipate, I get frightened of and I just avoid it. And I need to stop doing that. I need to just throw myself in and be braver. As far as I'm aware, this follows a girl called Addie LaRue who strikes a deal with a devil so that she will live forever, but in return nobody will ever remember her, and then she meets a guy called Henry who does remember her, and the story kind of progresses from there. It sounds like it's going to be like heartbreaking and inspiring and just everything all at once, and I'm really looking forward to reading it, and I can't believe I haven't yet because this is like my most anticipated release of 2020, but I will be reading it in 2021 and it will be 5 stars. And the last backlist book that I think I'm going to give 5 stars to this year is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. We have yet to start the Bone Season series because it's meant to be 7 books. The 4th book is coming out next month, and I was planning on waiting to start them until a few more of the books are out so that we could binge it and there wasn't too long before the next instalment was released. But like, I'm too excited. I can't wait any longer. I already have The Bone Season, The Mime Order, The Song Rising, and I've got The Mask Falling on pre-order, and I don't want to wait to read these anymore. This is about a girl called Paige. I think she's a clairvoyant. Yes, she is. So she's kind of, it's against the law, and somebody catches her doing it, and then she thinks she's going to get killed, but then she actually gets taken to like a secret society or like another world or something. I'm not completely sure because I haven't read them yet, but I've heard people say that these rip your heart out and stamp all over them, and if it's anything like The Priory of the Orange Tree, Samantha Shannon's writing is stunning, and that is one of the best standalone fantasy novels I've ever read, so I'm looking forward to reading this series and getting to know who Paige is. And if it's not 5 stars, I'll feel really silly that I've got all of the other ones lined up ready to go. So, we'll have a brief break while the babies scream. So the next section of books I'd like to talk about are the YA standalones that are publishing in 2021, and we might as well start this off with the Yearbook by Holly Bourne. I love Holly Bourne's writing. Her books are normally either 4 or 5 stars for me, and I'm hoping that the Yearbook is going to be a 5 star. I will be honest, it's been so long since this book was announced and the synopsis was revealed that I've kind of forgotten what it was about, but I think it's about a girl working on a yearbook committee, and then there's kind of like bullying, and it's about kind of taking down bullies and being kinder, and all of those are good morals to have, especially in the last couple of years that we've had. It will be nice to inspire younger people to be kinder to each other. The next book I'd like to mention is Destination Anywhere by Sarah Barnard. Sarah Barnard, another UK author who I absolutely adore. Goodbye Perfect, which was her most recent release, or was one before her most recent. I can't remember the timeline of when Fierce Fragile Hearts came out, but that won the YA Book Prize in its year. A Quiet Kind of Thunder, one of my favourite books of all time. Beautiful Broken Things is stunning, and I'm looking forward to reading Destination Anywhere. Again, this is one of those books that it was supposed to come out in June last year. It was supposed to come out in June 2020, but it got pushed back, so it's coming out in June 2021. So my knowledge of the book has diminished because I can't remember exactly what it's about, but the cover's gorgeous and it's Sarah Barnard, so it's probably going to be a 5 star. Let's hope. This is going well. I can really remember what all of these are about, but I'm still excited about them, and that's what matters. That is what matters. So the next book I'd like to talk about is Mark My Words by Mohammed Khan. This is another book that was meant to come out in 2020 and got pushed back, and this was actually one of my most anticipated releases for 2020, so I've been excited about this for a while as well. So this was meant to come out in February. I'm not quite sure when it's coming out, and I've got a feeling it might be May 2021, but it might not be. But it's coming out at some point in the next few months. And this follows a student journalist who has to investigate something that's going on at her school, and it's bad times. She has to do this investigation. She's going to get in trouble for it because obviously she's going to be painting the school in a bad light, but her kind of quest for the truth is more important to her, so she has that kind of internal struggle of like what she's going to do about this situation. Got a feeling it's about a teacher dealing drugs, but I might be making that up. That might be something else that I've been looking at recently. But Mohammed Khan does really kind of gritty UKYA contemporary novels set in schools, and he is a teacher, so he does base his characters very realistically in how students behave and what teenagers are like at the moment. So sometimes I'm like, wow, teenagers have changed a lot since I was young, but like, of course they have. I'm 24. Like, it's been like 10 years since I was in a school in that environment, so it's nice to see somebody who is really trying their hardest to represent teens accurately. Sean's just about to throw Split at us. Yes, Mohammed Khan, Split, short story for a World Book Day last year. Really loved it. Really enjoyed Kick the Moon, and really liked I Am Thunder as well. And definitely an author who deserves more respect for what he's writing. Sean says The Best World Book Day, short book, which I think is a controversial choice because The Case of Giant Pearl was out in the same year, and we love Robin Stevens, but Sean's saying that's the best one, so we'll go with it. The next book I'd like to mention is Afterlove by Tanya Byrne. This is a book which I know literally nothing about, but just look at how gorgeous that cover is. You don't often find girls kissing on covers, and I think that it's a brilliant thing to see that represented so openly on a UKYA cover in particular, because I know US covers more often don't have people, they more often have like illustrations and things like that, so seeing this on a UKYA cover is just so impactful, and I adore it. This is another one that I just can't really remember anything about because it got announced last summer and then it hasn't been pushed back, but it was just announced so far ahead of time. But that cover, man, it just sticks in my head, and it's definitely going to be a book that I pick up. And the last standalone YA release that I would like to talk about in this 5-star anticipated prediction video is You're the One That I Want by Simon James Green. This is Simon James Green's I think his fourth novel for young adults, but he's also been writing some middle grade. Like, this guy is just producing so much, and like, bow down to him. He is like really doing well. As far as I can remember, Simon James Green writes kind of funny UKYA contemporary with a queer twist, and in this one I think there's a boy who, he's always been the nice guy and he's always kind of finished last, so he decides he's gonna be the bad boy and he's gonna do like the stereotypical transformation, and then he like gets a crush on another guy, and it's like, will they, won't they? But then it's like, will he be true to who he actually is, or will he keep up this bad boy persona? It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and it sounds like it's going to be a riot, and I absolutely love the fact that it's a Grease reference in the title. There's just something about me and Grease that I'm like a sucker for, so I'm hoping to pick this one up, and I still need to read Never Can't Even, so that could have easily been one of the backlist 5-star predictions, because Simon James Green's writing just sounds like it's going to be exactly up my alley. The only book of his that I've read so far was the short story that he had in Proud, which I think was called Penguins, and I really loved that, so I don't know why I'm sleeping on his writing, and I'm hoping that You're the One That I Want is going to be just as good as I think it's going to be. So now it's time to move on to the last section of this video, which are the 5 series continuations that I think I'm going to give 5 stars to in 2021. So we're going to start off with Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Dreamer trilogy and the sequel to Call Down the Hawk. I liked The Raven Cycle. I gave the first book 4 stars, then 2 5 stars, and the last book was a 4 star. But Call Down the Hawk I enjoyed more than any book in the Raven Cycle, so it was easily a 5 star, and I'm hoping that Mr. Impossible is going to carry on that spring of 5 stars for me. The next book I'd like to mention is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder book 3. This is so far in advance that it doesn't have a title or a cover yet, but it's meant to come out in 2021, and I gave the first book 5 stars and the second book 4 stars, so I'm looking forward to joining Pip, Fitz and Mobby on another adventure as she solves more crimes in her little English hometown. I love the fact that these feel like such like blockbuster YA mysteries, but they're set in the UK, because UK YA does not do mysteries often, and it's more often like Karen and McManus, Maureen Johnson that you hear when you hear about YA mysteries, so it's nice to have a UK author up there as well. And Holly Jackson's writing is just so fun, and I love the way that half of each of the stories so far, so the first one is between like the narrative and then an extended project qualification log, and then the second book is partially told in podcast form, so I'm looking forward to seeing what non-traditional writing style she incorporates in the third book. The next book I'd like to mention is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the sequel to the Inheritance games, which I read back in the summer. As far as I'm aware, this is just a duology, so this will actually be the last book in the Inheritance games series as well. I really enjoyed the first book, which follows a girl called Kylie Avery Grams as she is told that she has been included in someone's will. She's never met him, she has no idea what link he has to her, but he has completely disowned his entire family. He's like disinherited them, he hasn't given them anything, he's given everything to Avery, and she has to deal with the fact that the boys aren't that happy about it. Looking forward to seeing how this one carries on, because it left on quite a bit of a cliffhanger and it was going in a very interesting direction, so it's definitely going to be carrying on with this duology, and I'm hoping it's going to be a 5 star. I'd also like to talk about Blessed Monsters by Emily A. Duncan. I have only read the first book in this series so far, which is Wicked Saints, but the third book is coming out, and I was like torn on the first one. It was a 3 star, I think. It was either a 3 or a 4, but it was on the improving when it finished, and it made me really, really excited to pick up the second book, and I'm feeling so excited about picking up the third book as well. I've heard that the queer themes are explored more deeply in the second novel, and that's something that definitely made this one stand out from the crowd. It's like a YA fantasy, but it's set in like a snowy place, and there's blood magic against, like, a war against the people who are like proper prayer people. Oh, it's hard to explain. So one girl has prayer beads and she like prays to the gods, and she thinks that the people who use blood magic are heretics, but then obviously you see some of it from their perspective as well, so you can kind of get both sides of the argument. But yes, it's a book that I was a bit conflicted on, but I found myself thinking more pleasantly towards it as the time has passed since I read it. So I don't know, I've just got a feeling that this one's going to end up like smashing it out of the park, and I've got a feeling that this is going to end up being a 5-star end to the series for me. I might be wrong. And the last book I'd like to talk about is also a book that the first book was a little bit conflicting, but it's Monsterous Design by Kat Dunn. So I read Dangerous Remedy last month and I enjoyed it. I loved the cast of characters, but there was just something about the plot that was a little bit slow. It took a while to get going and I thought it was trying to do quite a lot all at once. But at the end of the book, the characters have to kind of split off, and some of them are staying in France and some of them are going to London. So I think that that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, seeing the Battalion of Death split up and go off on like their own paths and their own stories. I think it's going to add an interesting dynamic, and it's going to make it very fascinating to see what happens to these characters, whether they come back together at the end. As far as I'm aware, this is just a duology, so it will be summing up the story, but this is another one that I don't know, I just loved these characters so much, and I thought Kat Dunn's writing was so good, and I enjoyed it, but I think I'm going to enjoy the sequel more. I don't know, I've just got a feeling about it. So I'm probably going to be wrong, but I've got good feelings, which is why I thought I'd give it a mention. So I hope you enjoyed this video. These are the 15 books that we are hoping to give 5 stars in 2021. You'll have to check back later in the year to see whether we manage to read any of them and whether, if we do, they are 5 stars or not. Please leave your 5-star predictions down in the comments if there's any books that you're really looking forward to that are about to come out, or any books that you haven't read yet that you think you're going to really love. I'd love to hear what your reading plans are for the year. We're going to be posting new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so we will see you on one of those days. Bye!